When I found out that I was going to produce forth an heir, I very quickly realized that while all I legally needed to exit the hospital with my tiny human was a car seat, I was now in command of all the rules, responsibilities, schedules, and appointments for said tiny human. And now his sister also, until they are teenagers. By contrast, my guest today selected a path that started as a teenager, which was heavily focused on rules, responsibilities, schedules, and appointments. How does someone become a professional rule follower? And does attitude matter when giving and following rules? Can those rules be used to inspire others and make a better community for us all? And that is what we are going to tackle today. Commander Alexa Jenkins graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy with a B.S. in English and a minor in Spanish. She served as the gunnery officer. She completed 2 deployments, one to the Arabian Gulf and one to 7th Fleet. She served as Combat Information Center officer and deployed on the inaugural Africa Partnership Station deployment throughout Western Africa. She then deployed to the Gulf of Aden, the first flag-led counter-piracy coalition. Pirates? Really? Pirates? She served as the operations officer and deployed to the coast of Somalia to conduct an independent Scan Eagle mission. During her tour as commanding officer of USS Tornado, she also took command of USS Chinook before returning to command Tornado. While on shore duty at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, NROTC, she earned her MBA from the Keenan Flagler School of Business. Most recently, she completed her second shore duty as the head promotion planner for the Navy. She has been the XO and the commander of the USS Carney. Her personal decorations include the Meritorious Service Medal, Navy Commendation Medal, Navy Achievement Medal, and various unit and campaign awards. All this while balancing being a wife and mom. Hi, Alexa.
Hi. It feels so strange when people read your bio because I laugh at the same part. Pirates. Yes. And it's funny. I remember being in business school right after coming back from pirate hunting, and I had a guy in my class who was an accountant, and he said, "Alexa, is pirate hunting really fun?" I said, "Yes, it is amazing and awesome, and this is just an experience that I think no one else will have in the world. I love it." And he said, "Really? I just love these spreadsheets." Well, there's something for everyone, right?
Right? So here's my question.
Sure.
Did you grow up dreaming of a career in service? What led you to this path of commitment, conviction, and no offense, aside from that one blinged out jacket, a rather unflattering wardrobe?
Yeah, definitely. And until recently, a 12-inch zipper on the pants. So, it gets worse. I definitely wanted to serve. My father is my hero, and he grew up really poor in the slums of Baltimore. His father died when he was 8 on Father's Day, so just not a lot of role models for him. But he was smart. He was really smart. He would go to the library and he would read. And I just thought it was amazing that he joined the military because he didn't have any food. They gave him 3 meals a day in the Marine Corps, and he thought, well, this is the greatest thing ever. They gave him a test to see how smart he was, and he's a genius. He's in Mensa. He's just a smart man.
Wow.
And so they taught him electronics, and that started his career where he was able to make a career for himself just on the fact that he was smart. And so he became the CEO of his own computer company. He helped start up Travelocity. He did all this stuff. He put in the call to the moon, to NASA. He worked for NASA when he was young, and he was in Africa. And I just thought, wow, the military gave him all of this. So despite growing up where he gave me everything, I thought the military is an equalizer. The military doesn't care who your parents are. The military doesn't care your background. It's all about what can you do on any given day. And I really wanted to know what I was made of, and I really wanted to give back. So it seemed like a good matchup. I went to the Naval Academy and got to see it firsthand that they were a school that made teams, and I thought I fit in here.
So does that mean that when you were in high school, you were in ROTC, or were you involved in clubs that had lots of rules to follow?
No, in high school I was just involved in drama.
Me too.
I was doing a lot of plays. I part of traveling companies that, you know, when they'd go through Texas and needed kids for Broadway shows. You know, that's what I did.
Wow. Did you ever do South Pacific?
No, I did.
Do you want to do South Pacific?
We can do some South Pacific. No, I did The Merry Widow. It was wonderful. I thought I was going to be right. And then my mom, when we moved to California, said, "Do you want an agent?" I very dramatically put my hand over my forehead and I said, "No, I want my childhood." So, definitely an interesting kid growing up. But no, there was nothing. I don't think I really knew I wanted to be in the Navy until I went for that week for the Naval Academy to see when I was a junior. I thought I would do ROTC, but I didn't even know the Naval Academy was a school until I was 16 years old. So I didn't know it was a thing.
You didn't see TAPS growing up?
Yeah, no, I didn't see Officer and a Gentleman. I had no idea people did this stuff.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So here you are, you're a junior, senior in high school, and everybody else is applying to colleges, and you're saying what?
And I'm saying, "Oh, I'd like to go to the Naval Academy." And I remember I did that. So as a debutante, so super not fun, in that giant, like, poofy cupcake white dress at the Beverly
Are there
Wilshire.
pictures?
Oh, there are definitely pictures. White long gloves, and it's 895 people at the Beverly Wilshire for this, like, thing where all these 20 debutantes are, you know, curtsying out. And then they went, "And Alexa is going to the United States Naval Academy." And everybody in the room went like this. Like, there was this gasp. And then people came up to my mother and said, "We thought she was so smart. What happened?" And it was like, it's a college. It's a real college with a real degree. I have to take calculus and physics.
Did people question if it was a real college?
Yes. They thought that something was wrong, that, you know, "Oh, maybe her transcript isn't so good, Donna." But, like, maybe a few more extracurriculars. Maybe we'll get her.
Okay, so you go to this Naval Academy, and you are in the majority as a woman, correct?
Oh, no. Yeah. There were about 12% women when I went, which is so different now, right? So now there's over 30% are women. And so walking around the campus, to me now as an adult, I look at all these youngsters and they're like, "There's a woman, there's a woman, there's a woman, there's a woman. Why are there so many women? What happened here?" And it's awesome to see.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
It was breaking those ceilings down.
Yeah.
Do you have any women who came before you that inspired you? Your dad inspired you growing up. Do you have someone in the military who inspired you?
Yes. So when I was a midshipman, when I was at the Naval Academy, there was this lieutenant, and she taught. They have these yard patrol crafts, these small ships at the Naval Academy, and they're used to teach us about ship handling. And it's a super cool thing that the Naval Academy has. And she was a surface warfare officer, and I saw her later in my career as an ensign. Once I graduated, there's a school called SWA, Surface Warfare Officer School.
Wow.
And I saw her in the building, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, ma'am, you know, I know you, you know, type of thing. What are you doing here?" And she said, "Oh, I'm here for command school." And I kind of paused because she's a lieutenant, and that's very junior. And I said, what are you going to go command? And she said, "A patrol craft." And I said, they don't let women command patrol craft. And she said, "They do now." And I was like, "I want to do it. I want to do that."
Oh, wow. So this is like that Legally Blonde moment where she bumps into the mean professor, and it turns out you were something to be held up on a pedestal.
It was just, I just couldn't believe that things were changing, and I was there for that change. And it's awesome because on a patrol craft, there is just one billet that is a female billet, and that's the captain. Otherwise, the entire ship is male based on the smallness of the ship and the berthing. There's just no segregation. So because the captain's cabin has its own head and its own shower, then doesn't really matter if you're a male or a female. You were
So it's go big or go home.
go big or go home. And I always joke that sometimes command of a PC felt like Wendy and the Lost Boys. And sometimes, like, okay, guys, let's sit around. We're going to have story time while I knit these pockets.
Well, I think more like Tinkerbell. You managed to make magic happen.
Yeah, it was good. It was probably the most fun that I had, and then it should not be allowed. They are decommissioning these ships, but man, when you're so young and to have that much control and to be able to shape how you want to do something, to have a vision and be able to execute it without 12 layers of Mother May I is awesome. It's very empowering.
So you're the rule maker in essence.
Yes.
So I decided that I had to establish rules as soon as like I said, I had to produce forth an heir because largely gypsy in my young adult life. So my rules are designed to be easy to remember and universal in implementation. Be happy, be kind, always do your best. Do you have a motto or a credo or a housewife's tagline?
I do. And really just three values here: character, competence, and connection. So I believe in trust. And I think that you can't be effective at anything you do with any group of people if there is no shared sense of trust. And you don't trust people who are shady. You got to have good character, right? And I don't trust people who don't have that resilience to get back up after taking a punch. So your character is more than just doing the right thing when no one's looking. It's that tenacity, that resilience that's important. The connection piece, I just think, is so vital to establishing trust. We don't trust somebody if we don't know them and connect with them, right? And that can be a simple thing as, do you relate to them over their likes, their interests? Do you understand who are the important people in their lives, and do you value those folks as well? And then for competence, obviously we don't trust people that aren't good at their jobs. So if you're good at what you do, and I don't care if that's sweeping the floor, I don't care if that's your job is to make the coffee, then you better make the gosh darn best cup of coffee that you can make. Competence goes a long way in inspiring trust.
Professional development and leadership coaches consistently mention that the one thing that drives success, from customer service to acts of service to careers in service, is in fact connection. Because you value this so highly, can you give an example of how you create connection as a leader?
Sure. I think when people come and they check in with me, when I meet them for the first time, I always ask them this very simple question. I say, who do you call first when you get really good news? One, it's a way for me to tell that they have a network of support in their life. The minute I say, who do you call when you get really good news? I can watch their eyes and they light up because they think of their mom, their husband, something good happened to them, and your brain just goes back to that moment of, I got promoted, I got the job that I wanted, we got the offer on the house was accepted, right? And who do you want to tell? Who do you want to share that with? Because joy isn't something we keep just to ourselves. We want to share that joy. And so then I would write down, I'd say, okay, great. It's your wife, spouse, whoever it is. What's their email? What's their phone number? And they'd be like, well, I'm not signing them up for spam. I really love to write a note to the people who matter to them and say, hey, I had a great talk with your whoever today. I want you to know that your values really inspired them. Thank you for sharing them, with our ship for a couple of years. I'm going to take good care of them. And I think that made people feel like, oh, you care about my people too.
Did you ever see these kinds of acts of inspiration be reflected back at you? Is there anything that you can say, I did that, and then it made such an impact?
Yeah. So another time I would write these, I would write birthday letters to every single crew member on the ship. And it would take just maybe 10 minutes out of my day to start off with gratitude. And I would write about something unique to them, either something they'd fixed on the ship or maybe just a funny quirk about them. Whatever it was, the letter was very personal to that exact sailor. And people would look forward to their birthday letter. It's a big deal. I would go down, I'd present it to them. on my birthday underway. I was 41. It's a very uneventful birthday, 41. Nothing
Not
really,
a round number.
right? Like nothing exciting. But I got hundreds of birthday notes and cards from my sailors back to me.
Wow.
And I will tell you, it was a very special birthday. So I will always remember 41.
Undoubtedly. Did you see A Bronx Tale?
Maybe.
It's with Chaz Palminteri. It's that mafia movie.
Oh, yes.
Where his father's the bus driver and the kid gets involved. So I remember watching A Bronx Tale in my teens, and when he asked, is it better to be loved or feared? That was a poignant moment for me because that was literally how I thought of the world. To be feared or to be loved. Very Machiavelli. As a leader, did you ever think those were the two options?
No, although it's funny, you bring up A Bronx Tale and all I think about is Michael Scott on The Office doing that line where he's like, well, I want them to fear how much they love me. Yeah, I remember that's probably more my speed. That's more type of leadership that I am. But I think that fear is always an effective tool in the very, very short term. Like it is. Like fear will get people in line. Mothers start counting 1, 2. You do something before she gets to 3, right? But that compassion and that empathy and understanding that there's a leader and you want to do something because you believe in them and you believe in the cause, I think is so much longer lasting and sustainable.
Have you ever had experiences with the types of leaders who perhaps see connection as a weakness?
Yes. Definitely. My community isn't, the surface warfare officer community isn't a big, like a hugging type of community.
Stop.
Yeah, I know it's a shock.
The sea of khaki and navy.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. Just lots of connection. I think that leaders who view connection as a weakness don't know how to use it effectively. They're looking at connection as a popularity contest or, connection is just a way that you're pacifying sailors or you're not pushing them to where they need to go. And I think that's the wrong view on how I see connection. I think when I think of a combat-ready ship or when I think of how our sailors going to really respond in extreme stress, if you are connected to the other people, you're going to do more than you think you can because that's your family. They're not just some other person that's wearing the same blue coveralls that you are. They're your family. You know them.
Speaking of family, you became a mother less than a handful of years ago.
Yeah, that's right. 4, my very precocious 4-year-old son.
And how did becoming a mother and now officially becoming the boss of a tiny tyrant shape your approach as a leader?
He definitely, so I will tell you, he has a small captain's hat, and he puts it on, and he says, "I'm the captain." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "What do you think a captain does?" And he says, "I tell people, go, and they go." I mean, you're not wrong. But I think being a mother has fundamentally changed how I lead people. One, just understanding when somebody comes to you and says, my daughter has pneumonia, I'm worried about this next underway. I don't want to get underway. They have a hospital appointment. They have anything that's going on. I think it hits me differently than it did before I had children. I also think having children makes you more patient, makes you more kind. People don't come to work wanting to do a bad job, just as my child does not want to spill the entire glass of milk on the floor before we have to. People make mistakes, and you have to help them see what could they do better, how can they improve. My question always in any disciplinary review board or process where they're coming up and bringing a sailor to me who is not doing the greatest of things. And I always say, what can we do to change the behavior? I'm not interested so much in how are we punishing and making somebody's life miserable. I'm more interested in how do we change the behavior.
So growth mindset is more the direction that you tend to approach the matter.
Yes.
So I am very aware that I'm not everyone's cup of tea or any other beverage for that matter. I may be too much this or not enough that. However, in positions of leadership, I try to navigate with respect while still staying authentic to my character. Have you ever had experiences where you felt that you were perceived as not enough or too much and then had the opportunity to clear the air, so to speak?
Yes. So being a drama kid, I think that my entire naval career, sometimes I feel I'm a square peg in a round hole. I am a lot and, some too much. In fact, I had a Commodore tell me before I went to early command, he said, what the word is? You're too animated. You're too animated, Alexa.
Animated.
Yeah. And he said, you're really going to have to tone that down. And what I find is you have to be authentic to who you are, because sailors and people that not just sailors, people are smart, and they know when you're putting on airs, and they know when you're trying to fit yourself into a mold or a box. And I would say, don't take up the space in the room. Be yourself as big as you are, because that's what people want to see, and that's what people want to know, and that's what people connect with is the real you. And then it's genuine, and it's a genuine connection, and it's so much better for everybody. So be too much. I love too much.
So that sounded like the worst advice you ever got. What was the best advice you ever got?
The best advice I ever got was it's never as good as they say it's going to be, and it's never as bad as they say it's going to be. I think a lot of times people give you advice into what job to take or how you should proceed, and they sell you on it, right? Oh no, that will be devastatingly terrible. Will it though? Will it be devastatingly terrible? Or maybe that just wasn't, as you say, your cup of tea. So take every bit of salesman-y advice with a grain of salt, and I think you'll get to where you're supposed to go.
Can you share one of the most fun experiences? Because when I think of the Navy, I don't think of fun. But something about you just says fun. So there has to be something. Tell me one thing that was so fun that if I have a child who's thinking about enlisting, God willing, in the future, I can say, I knew this cool woman and she had this amazing experience.
Gosh, that's hard to narrow it down to one, but I always tell folks if they say, what was your favorite day in the Navy that you've ever had? I love crossing the line, the equator. So when you cross the equator on a ship, there's this whole pageantry ceremony, just pandemonium that probably shouldn't happen on a naval warship, but it's just fun, right? There is no, combat need for this ceremony, but it is a day that you just spend, and it starts early in the morning. They get all the slimy polywogs, all of the people who have never crossed the line, and they get them up very, very early. They have stations around the ship that you go through. They're spraying water. There's food randomly everywhere. There's King Neptune at the end. Like, people dress up.
This is magical. It sounds exceptional.
It's awesome. And the first time I did it, so I've done this 4 times in my time in the Navy. Once you cross the line, then you're a trusty shellback. So I'm very trusty.
Okay.
I've done it.
I trust you.
Yeah. But when I was a slimy pollywog, you can't.
These words.
Yeah, you can't start the day of crossing the line. You can't start the ceremony until you fly the Jolly Roger. You actually put up a pirate flag. It's super fun, and
everything about this is Jake and the Neverland Pirates. You understand?
Yeah. So I stole it. So I was on watch up on the bridge the the night before we were starting. And I knew that they needed this flag to start, so I thought it'd be a really fun prank if I stole it. And nobody would think it was me because I'm just some little ensign, and like, what would I ever do? So I took it and I stuffed it down the front of my coveralls, and I guess that says a lot that nobody noticed. But I stuffed it down my coveralls, and we hid in our room. And at that point on my cruiser, there were only 6 women on the entire ship, and we were all in one room. So we were all slimy pollywogs together. So nobody knew the combination to our room. So nobody knew it was hidden there. Like, where is it? Like, they have everyone combing this ship. It was awesome. My department had then, he pulled me by my ear out. Like, once we got out, and he goes, "Where is it? I know it was you." And I was like, "How do you know it was me?" And he's like, "Alexa, we know it was you.
We know it was you."
And then I'm like, okay. So I was a special case, which meant that I was the very last person that day to become a shellback. So I kept going around. You would go around,
yeah,
and then you would get to the point where you're finally dunked in this water with those Hilo green dye packets. And so I would finally get to the end, and they were like, "No, send her around again." So I did it the longest. It was
punished.
Yeah, very much punished for my delay of the day, but totally worth it. And the pictures are amazing. And then afterwards, every time you do it, you kind of dress up more like a pirate. So you slash your khaki trousers so that they're shredded. Like,
it's very dignified.
Yeah,
it's very
awesome.
dignified.
I know it's a terrible thing to say. What's your favorite time? The time where we just had a play on the ship? That was great.
I'm glad to hear that, because in a culture that is so synonymous with heavy and hard events, there is an appreciation that there's opportunities for the people who serve our country to be thought of as human beings.
Yeah. You want to have... I think that if you ask sailors, why the Navy or why do it, I've been to 53 countries with the Navy. And that's incredible, right? I've been on every continent except Antarctica.
Yet.
Right? We've got to plan a trip. But
penguins.
I think the adventure is what sells me on it. It is an adventure.
Worth every second?
Worth every second. The people make it so. The people make that adventure awesome. Otherwise, you could just be on some cargo ship with 6 people total, and it'd be very boring.
Well, Alexa, thank you so much for your service and so much for sharing your stories with us today.
Oh, you're so what? This was awesome. This is amazing.
It's time for our honorable mensch. If you